Welcome to Hockeywiztalks podcast. Today I'll be making predictions on the NFL standings and playoffs picture. AFC. In first place in the AFC East are the New England Patriots, followed by the New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills. The New England Patriots have ruled the AFC East for the past 19 years, and it doesn't seem like their stranglehold on that division will end until Bill Belichick and Tom Brady retire. The New York Jets are a much improved offense, with the addition of Le'Veon Bell, but they are still no threat to the Patriots. The Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills are unpredictable because of how inconsistent they can play on a week-to-week basis. As of right now, no team in the AFC East is a legit threat to the Patriots dynasty. In first place in the AFC North are the Pittsburgh Steelers, followed by the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, and Cincinnati Bengals. There should be two teams out of the AFC North that make the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers are always in the playoff hunt, so it is expected for them to make the playoffs. The other team out of the AFC North that should make the playoffs are the Cleveland Browns, but the Baltimore Ravens should also be in the hunt. The Cleveland Browns are the most improved team in the NFL this year, with a young and exciting offense led by Baker Mayfield, and a really good defense as well. The Baltimore Ravens are always a competitive team in the AFC North, so you can never count them out. The Cincinnati Bengals are by far the worst team in the division. It will be a rough year for them. The Pittsburgh Steelers should win the AFC North, and the Cleveland Browns will make the playoffs as a wild card. In first place in the AFC South are the Houston Texans, followed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, and Indianapolis Colts. The Houston Texans are a really solid team in a weak division. Therefore, they should be the favorites in the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a terrific defense, a good running back, and a good coach. The only thing that was missing was a legit starting quarterback. They got their starting quarterback in former Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles. If the Jaguars can sneak into the playoffs, they can do some damage. The Tennessee Titans are the definition of a mediocre team that isn't going anywhere. They're not going to be the worst team, but they're not going to make the playoffs. The Indianapolis Colts just lost franchise quarterback Andrew Luck to retirement, so the best thing the Colts can do is try to get the number 1 pick in the 2020 draft. The Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars both have chances to win the AFC South, but I feel like the Texans are the better team overall. In first place in the AFC West are the Kansas City Chiefs, followed by the LA Chargers, Denver Broncos, and Oakland Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs have a high-octane offense led by last year's MVP Patrick Mahomes. They will strike fear on opposing defenses and should be enough to make them the best team in the AFC West. The LA Chargers are a terrific football team, but because they are in the same division as the Chiefs, they will have to settle for making the playoffs as a wild card. The Denver Broncos are a much improved offense, with former Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco under center. The Oakland Raiders added Antonio Brown, but I don't think this addition is good enough to make them a playoff team. The Kansas City Chiefs should win the AFC West and should be the top seed in the AFC. The LA Chargers should make the playoffs as a wild card. Check out my fantasy sports blog, hockeywiztalksfantasy.blogspot.com. NFC. In first place in the NFC East are the Philadelphia Eagles, followed by the Dallas Cowboys, Washington Redskins, and New York Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles are the clear-cut favorites in the NFC East. They have a very well-rounded team. Led by Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys are a good football team, but if they don't win their division, they have no shot at making the playoffs in the NFC. The New York Giants have the QB controversy on their hands. They will most likely start Eli Manning, but if he struggles, they could turn to Daniel Jones. The Washington Redskins have a solid football team, but they aren't good enough to make the playoffs. The Philadelphia Eagles should end up winning the NFC East, edging out the Dallas Cowboys. In first place in the NFC North are the Minnesota Vikings, followed by the Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and Detroit Lions. The Minnesota Vikings are the best all-around team in the NFC North. They have a great receiving core, a solid quarterback, and a great defense. The Chicago Bears have a terrific defense, a good running game, and a good coach. All they need is Mitch Trubisky to be a solid starting quarterback. The Green Bay Packers will need to rely heavily on the dynamic duo of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams in order to make the playoffs. The Detroit Lions are by far the worst team in the NFC North. It will be a rough year for them since they are playing in arguably the best division in the NFC. The Minnesota Vikings should win the NFC North, and the Chicago Bears should make the playoffs as a wild card. In first place in the NFC South are the New Orleans Saints, followed by the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The New Orleans Saints are the clear favorites in the NFC South, as they still have Drew Brees, Sean Payton, and a real dynamic offense. The Atlanta Falcons also have a very dangerous offense led by Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, but their defense is not as good as the Saints defense. The Carolina Panthers have a star quarterback in Cam Newton and star running back in Christian McCaffrey. They also have a pretty solid defense as well. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the worst team in the NFC South. Unless Jameis Winston can step up and play to his potential, the Buccaneers aren't going anywhere. The New Orleans Saints should win the NFC South, and the Atlanta Falcons could be a wild card in the NFC. In first place in the NFC West are the LA Rams, followed by the Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals, and San Francisco 49ers. The LA Rams are the clear-cut favorites to win the NFC West. The only other team that is a threat in that division is the Seattle Seahawks. While the Seattle Seahawks don't have the Legion of Boom anymore, they still have a good defense, and they still have Russell Wilson. The Arizona Cardinals could have a lethal running back quarterback tandem in 2 to 3 years because Kyler Murray will go through some growing pains this year. The San Francisco 49ers don't really have any game-breaking talent on the offensive side of the ball, so they could have some trouble scoring. The LA Rams should win the NFC West and also should be the top seed in the NFC. Check out my Facebook page, Mr. Hockeywiz777, and my Instagram, Mr. Hockeywiz77. NFL playoffs picture. In first place in the AFC are the Kansas City Chiefs, followed by the New England Patriots, Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Houston Texans. The two wild cards in the AFC are the LA Chargers and Cleveland Browns. In first place in the NFC are the LA Rams, followed by the New Orleans Saints, Minnesota Vikings, and Philadelphia Eagles. The two wild cards in the NFC are the Chicago Bears and Atlanta Falcons. On my next podcast, I'll be giving fantasy hockey draft advice.